A silence. Mr. Hamry.
Tomorrow's the anniversary of Uvalde, Texas. Please keep the families and friends and survivors in mind. And pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fire evacuation announcement. Double doors behind you. Out the double doors to the parking lot. Double doors to my left, your right, down the stairs, out to the parking lot. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hamry.
Here.
Mr. LeBlanc. Mrs. Pickett.
Here.
Mr. Ryder.
Here.
Mr. Ungary.
Here.
Mrs. Apri.
Here.
Inspector Townley.
Here.
Mrs. Cushman.
Here.
Madam Chair.
Here. Item 6, board guests. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight we welcome our Buzz Robotics advisors, Carolyn Marr and Lauren Jefferson, and several of our, I think the T-shirts gave them away, but several of our Buzz Robotics students. So the floor is yours.
Do all the microphones up here work?
Just make sure the red button's on. And that's the mouse cut, yeah.
Oh, no, we're going to let them do their thing.
Hello, I am Jimmy Padilla, a junior on the team, and I've been on the team for 3 years.
Hi, my name is Kathy Diaz. I'm a sophomore, and this is my second year on the team.
My name is Sophie, and I'm a sophomore, and this is my second year on the team.
This school year, we recruited 10 new team members, including 4 freshmen, 3 sophomores, 2 juniors, and 1 senior. We met weekly throughout the fall to participate in team building and learn the basics of programming, CAD, machining, and wiring. Additionally, we reviewed safety procedure and techniques to be prepared for the season.
One of the most exciting things that we got to do in preseason was go on a field trip to visit Boston Dynamics. We got to learn about many robotic projects that were being undertaken by Boston Dynamics and see many of their robots in action, and even had the opportunity to drive their robot Spot. We want to give a special thanks to Mr. Ungary for giving this opportunity for us.
In January, we found out about the details of our game, Charged Up, where robots weighing up to 125 pounds place cones and cubes onto shelves of varying heights. We met 5 days a week, including Saturdays at Enfield Annex, to design, prototype, and build our robot, which we named Meatball 2 Electric Buzzaloo.
This year, we paid special attention to our robot, team aesthetic, and overall team spirit. We're very proud of the design our students came up with for our t-shirts and buttons and pins to match this year's theme. We also all work together to make our robot fit with our team branding and bring a new level of team spirit to our competitions and activities.
For our first competition was at Southeast Mass Event, where we traveled overnight to Bridgewater. This gave us a chance to bond as a team, as well as experience making rapid improvements and adjustments to our robot and code in real-time situations. Buzz had a very successful event where we got to quarterfinals as the 7th seed Alliance captain. Additionally, for our team and robot aesthetics, Buzz received the Imagery Award.
For our second competition, we competed at the Western New England University. We had another successful event where we were the captain of the 4th seed Alliance and advanced to quarterfinals. Not only that, but Buzz won the Spirit Award for the first time in its 28-year history. Our commitment to First Community and the smiles we had on and off the fields made us worthy of this award.
For the second year in a row, Buzz has also had the chance to give back to the First Community by volunteering as a team to set up the event field for the Hartford District competition. Although we weren't a competing team for this event, 4 students also volunteered for the event for its 2-day duration. At the Western New England District event, our team volunteered to tear down the field as well. We learned a lot about how much work goes into making events run, and we were very proud of ourselves for our contributions.
Because of our successes at both competitions, we were able to qualify for the New England District Championships held at the Big E Fairgrounds. Qualifying for this event was our season goal, and we're incredibly proud. Our team and a robot performed well at this event too, and even though we were unable to compete at playoffs, we won the Team Spirit Award, which is our first ever district championship level award.
Currently, we are fundraising to compete at the World Championship in Houston in 2024, as we haven't been able to attend since before the pandemic, although we have qualified for the past 2 years. We will be working all season to fundraise the money to travel and compete with teams from all around the world.
We would like to thank the Enfield Board of Education for your continued support of Buzz Robotics. Without your support, our team would not be able to exist.
Thank you all very much for your presentation. We can't let you leave because the board members are going to have questions or comments. So anyone would like to go first? Would you like to go, Mr. Ray?
I just want to thank you all for being here this evening, and a privilege for me to be associated with you as a liaison from the board to Buzz Robotics. I've come to know some of you and work with some of you, and I think that what you do and the time that you commit to what you do, it's just it's such an inspiration to so many. And you are, dedicated to learning things like engineering, and it takes a great deal of engineering to produce a robot and to get it to do what you want it to do. It takes a tremendous amount of skill and education and learning and how to build it. And there's so many different skills that you are subjected to and that you learn, and what a positive impact that's going to have on your future. And I hope that all of you that are associated with it will continue in these areas of engineering and building and creating, and just very proud of you. I remember going to New England and Western New England College and seeing everyone there and your bright yellow shirts and how you stood out from the entire crowd and your big smile flag, and you made Enfield proud, and so. And I'm glad that you enjoyed the trip to Boston Dynamics. That's high level, world class robotics that we were privileged to see. And at the end of that whole trip at Boston Dynamics, the man who led it said, he commented on all of our Enfield Buzz Robotics students about how well behaved you were, and how you maintained yourself during the whole thing. And he said that you guys got probably, he said, one of the best tours that they've ever given there. So you got to see the best of the best that day, and we were all fortunate to be there. And so thank you. And I just that's all I can think of right now.
That was good. Mr. Ryder?
So I had a comment and a question for you. So the comment was, as I understood it, you've won several Team Spirit Awards this season. And I think that's important with extracurricular activities, that you have fun doing it. And I think that that's obvious, that you guys have fun doing what you're doing, and I think that's great. You mentioned fundraising. What is the goal? And are there links that you could share with me that we could put out on social media to help you fundraise, et cetera? Is there a specific fundraiser? Is it a GoFundMe? I just wanted to ask you about that and how I could help share that.
Hi. No.
It just takes a second to turn on.
Yes. There we go. Okay, so we run several different fundraisers throughout the year. We do a pasta supper. We've done a paint night. We're collecting bottles and cans. We also do a lot of donors choose for individual supplies. And we've been able to successfully get a ton of things through there, from like robot parts to spirit stuff and button maker, all that kind of stuff. So we've been really successful with that. But generally we have a bunch of different fundraisers throughout the year that we invite people to. So I'm happy to make sure that those get sent along to you guys. And then we also do a lot of applying for grants and that kind of thing to help the team. So we get grants from, we have a pretty large list of sponsors on our website that covers, and we also have a sponsorship packet, which we can send around as well if anybody wants to see that.
So I would just ask the superintendent through the chair, if you could send us that and then any links that you have. I know we've gotten invitations to different like open houses, but if we could have that as well, we could make sure that the 9 of us do our part in promoting that and sharing it in the different ways that we each have. But I'd love to do that for you. So please let us know.
Awesome. Thank you. And the website is buzzrobotics.org. So there's a sponsor tab that has all the information for the sponsorships as well. But it also has a lot of information about our team, the things we're involved with. So it's really great to just check it out. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all I had to say.
Ms. Pickett?
So thank you so much. And I will share with you all, robotics and that type of stuff is like not a personal skill or interest of mine, but you have all perked my interest. And I think what was most exciting was you sharing about your Spirit Awards and the first district award that you got at the Big E, right? Which award was that again? It was in related to like your spirit and your like team camaraderie, right? And so I think that speaks volumes, that regardless if I know a lot about robotics, that I feel connected to the work that you're doing because of the spirit and the connection that you're all building together as a team. And I think that shines through. So thank you for that work and congratulations.
Mr. Hamry?
Just very quickly, again, the Team Spirit Award stood out to me the most because you got that twice or more. That's just amazing. So very cool. And I want to just reflect that our Buzz Robotics team did this in JFK, right? Are you at Enfield High? I apologize.
Enfield High.
Enfield High. Okay. The point would still stand, though, that we've got a wonderful facility and the staff and the tools and the inspiration to make that possible. That you were able to make these things happen. Literally, physically making things that can then go on and do whatever robots tend to do. And it's good to see that our students are getting that inspiration to continue doing that. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Ms. Acree?
I would like to thank you and congratulate Ms. Marr, Ms. Jefferson, and the team for your hard work. I heard a lot about volunteering in there when someone was doing that's a great thing to do for the community. And congrats on doing very well in all your competitions, especially winning the Team Spirit Award. Thank you very much for your creativity and your ingenuity.
Ms. Cushman?
I was thankful to have the opportunity to drop in when you were at Western New England and get to see some of the competition. I learned a lot from just watching and just had great appreciation for all that you did in creating and building, all the planning and executing. Are any of you take on the responsibility of the drivers?
I'm the coach for the drivers, so I kind of tell them where to move the robot and where to place their cones and cubes.
That was the one task I thought I would never want the pressure to do. But did you find that in this season that you did take on any responsibilities on the team that really stretched you personally?
Well, for me personally, this year I took on the role as the lead programmer on the team. It was because this year we've had the largest programming team ever in the history of the team, so it was definitely a challenge managing the whole team.
Okay, that's exciting.
Like I said, for me, it was being the coach.
Mm-hmm.
That was a new experience. We haven't had a student coach before, so this was also like a learning experience from the mentors and from what I could get from the students as well. I also got the opportunity to help run the Buzz social media accounts, so that was a very big opportunity for me as well.
Wow, that's great.
For me, I am in charge of the safety. I'm one of the safety captains, and I'm also in charge of scouting. So I'm the one that looks at the other teams and try to strategize with how their abilities best fit ours. And probably the most challenging part is that I'm the student representative that goes up to choose end up choosing our alliance.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Dr. Jerry?
Well, I'd just like to add my voice to congratulate you folks on a terrific job. Your teamwork and your initiative is really inspiring. So I would imagine that your activity here is influencing your choice of what you want to do after you graduate from high school. Can you say just a few words about that? Or no, you don't have to.
I get to say it. For me personally, before I joined the robotics team, I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do in the future. But after learning, I think I decided I wanted to pursue computer engineering or some sort of computer science field.
Buzz Robotics has made it very clear to me that I want to be in engineering. As to what field, I'm not sure yet, but I hope to find out one of these days.
I also want to go into the engineering field. I'm not exactly sure what, but I know because of Buzz, I know that it's a hands-on activity that I want to pursue in.
I'll finish. We do have a question. Mr. Ryder had noted that the 8th graders are going to be coming to visit Enfield High. So what do you do to promote Buzz to the incoming 8th grade students? Is there anything that you do for recruiting as far as getting new students in?
Last year we did a lot of recruiting, so that was one of the events that we talked about. A couple of us students went, took some time out of our classes and presented to the upcoming 8th graders about how they could join Buzz and what they should expect when they do. We also did things like sitting in our cafeteria, handing out flyers to already existing Enfield High students as well. And then we also volunteer at events where we show the community how our robot works to try and get as many different people from as many different places.
That's great. Am I correct in saying one of your events fell on the night of a prom? Because I saw the girls all dressed up in gowns. And they still went, did they do both or did they just go to Buzz? They did both. That's dedication. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to add is, so you build long hours, but it's got to be a balance for you between your schoolwork and any type of other activities that you do, fitting it all in one day. So I know that's a lot of hard work and dedication, and I appreciate your dedication. And I'm sure it's a big balance. Again, like we've kind of all said, getting that Spirit Award to me is really representative of what we would like to see in Enfield Public Schools, so that when you're out in the community and you're out at those events, you're really an extension of your school, and having that spirit and camaraderie speaks volumes. And I'm very proud. We're all very proud of that. I do have to say, I'm so glad the Boston Dynamics trip happened, because it was like the one snowstorm we got, right? And it gets canceled on that day. But Mr. Ungeyer was very excited to organize that, and I'm glad that you had a great experience. It sounds like it was a perfect day for you all. I also want to take a moment to thank the advisors. I know it's a lot of work. And the families, I know it's a lot on the families too. I have a neighbor who both her daughters are in Buzz, and they definitely do other things like dance and have homework and Buzz and social lives. I think they're in orchestra. So again, thank you for your dedication, and we are also very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, you can head out if you'd like. Yeah. Thank you again.
I do have one question. Did the earrings put you over the top for the Spirit Award? Don't think I didn't see those Buzz earrings you had when you came over. That's pretty clever. I got to give you that.
Item 7, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to welcome Kayla for one night not having a track event on board night, meeting night, so I'm going to let you go first tonight. Sorry, Morgan.
Good luck.
I feel so special right now. Okay, so girls lacrosse had an amazing win for their senior night against Windsor last night. And boys lacrosse, their season has ended, and we want to congratulate the team for a job well done. Girls tennis won their senior night against Plainville also last night, and the team is going to the state tournament. Congratulations to all of them who made it. The golf team is also heading to the CIAC state championships, and good luck to all of those competing. The girls softball team had an amazing senior night last week. Congratulations to the team for the season they had this year. The baseball team had their senior night also last night at the Yard Goat Stadium. Mr. Ryder had the first pitch. It was a very good one. Congratulations to the boys and their manager for a great season. Yesterday, the track team competed at the CCC Conference Championships, and congratulations to all the athletes who made all conference. The track team is now preparing to compete in the Double L State Championship on Wednesday, May 31st. And the track team will be hosting their annual Spitfire track meet on Wednesday, June 7th at the EHS track. It will run from 4 to 5, and there will be throwing, running, and jumping events to participate in. It is free for pre-K through 5th graders, and we are also looking for donations of non-perishable or canned food items to donate to the Enfield Food Shelf, and it would be greatly appreciated if you bring them to the meet. And then the Unified Sports Track meet will follow at 5:30.
Thank you.
Hello there. So there will be a lot because it's the month of May, so everything's going down now. Senior parents and students, I know you are loving the emails we are getting, but you need to start paying attention to them. This is one of the most important times of the year for all of our seniors. Our class dues are due this Friday to Miss Moyer. It is $30. It goes towards our cords, our graduation gown, and cap. Class picnic and class night are on June 2nd. It is $45 to attend class picnic, $50 to attend class night, and they are due to Miss Akins on the second floor by Friday to this week. Safe Grad, please turn in your permission slips and your $10 to Miss Akins by this Friday so that you can reserve your spot. Senior prom was last Friday. We had an amazing turnout with over 400 people in attendance. It was fantastic. I loved seeing everyone dress up, so thank you to everyone who attended. The junior class today has started their NGSS testing. Make sure you are arriving on time to school with your iPads fully charged. Also, listen to the announcements in the morning to make sure you are heading to the library for the right day. The spring elections were held today for the class of 2024, 25, and 26. I'm excited to see who our new officers are. Awards and Scholarship Night will be held May 31st at 6:30 in the Enfield High Auditorium. If you have been nominated to receive an award or a scholarship, you should have already received your invitation by mail or email from the school. If you are there and you are a student, make sure you're arriving by 6 o'clock. We have an early release tomorrow for everyone. At the high school, the 8th graders will be coming to visit us. We have no school Monday, May 29th for Memorial Day. We had the Enfield hosted the first cultural fair last week. It was an amazing turnout. Thank you to the English, Social Studies, and Language departments. Today we held the Psych Fair. Congratulations and good job to everyone. The SAT, we had 2 students get a perfect score. One of our very own Board of Education members, Jimmy Padilla, and Lucas Pinvonska. Did I say that right, Kayla? I think I did. Okay. Very sorry if I just said that wrong. I tried. Credit loss appeals. If you have received any papers saying you might be losing a credit and you would like to appeal this, head to Miss Moyer's office on the 2nd floor right by the A&E wing stairs and request your packet and fill it out and return it by June 1st, please. And finally, the favorite part for me, the month of May, our Map Ball tournament is returning. The annual Map Ball tournament has started as of today. The first round was held today during Eagle Block and after school. The atmosphere that happens around the high school during this time is just amazing. It's so much competition going back and forth.
What is Map Ball?
Kickball. Kickball, but you can have more than one person on a base at a time. Oh, it's awesome.
There's a strategy to it.
Oh, there is. Oh, it gets competitive. It's like you're playing football. It's so fun to watch. And you are vying for a big trophy that is, oh yeah, it's an actual trophy. Like, that is gorgeous.
Oftentimes, if a senior class wins, they'll wear their medals with their graduation robes.
Yes, they will. They will wear, yep, it's a big thing. And that's all I have for us this week.
Thank you, Morgan. I don't think I have anything else. Morgan hit it all. We're not here on Memorial Day. However, I will add that board members have been invited to attend the Memorial Day Parade on Sunday, May 28th. Parade will start at 1 p.m. from the Our Lady of Angels campus and will end at Enfield Town Hall. Quorum agenda can be found in your packet along with a flyer with additional information about the parade. I don't know if Morgan mentioned this, so I'll do it again. Incoming grade 6 parent night at JFK will hold an informal night for current grade 5 parents and students on Tuesday, May 30th at 6:30 in the JFK auditorium. There's a flyer in your packet as well. Morgan hit awards night, and that will conclude the superintendent's report. Should get you on earlier.
Thank you. Audiences? We have one audience member, so we'll allow 4 minutes this evening.
Hi, Maureen Griffin, Abbey Road. So I was listening to the town council meeting, and someone commented that it was said that priorities, what are the priorities of the people? They come to school with a Dunkin' Donuts. How dare them? Excuse me. In the fall, I would have driven up in a 16-year-old van, leaking oil, dents all over it, with almost 240,000 miles on it. I pulled up tonight in a new vehicle with less than 8,000 miles on it. I'm the same person. We have the same income sources, same family situation. To use something like that is so shallow. And whomever that person was owes an apology to every family in this town. Because you know what? If you need the support of a free lunch or a reduced price lunch, you need it. And you should not have to feel shame for that. And it should not be held against you. And whoever that board member was, or council member, shame on you. And anyone who agreed with them and thought it was a good idea to cut funding or to take the funding for feeding the children that you cannot tell by whom you're looking at or where they live what their financial situation is. Because I bet you there's some people down in the fancy sections of town that are in debt beyond their eyeballs, and they need the help too. So get off your high horses. Remember that this is about the children, and do what you need to do to support them, educate them, and let them know that they're valuable no matter what they're wearing, no matter what they're riding up into school in. Nothing. They are valuable simply because they are.
Item 9, board member comments. Ms. Acree.
Good evening. Some happenings, events at Prudence Crandall. This past week, the Smart Balance Assessment, which is the statewide testing, was completed at Crandall. Thank you, parents, for your partnership in preparing your children to do their best on these assessments by making sure that your child had a nutritious breakfast every morning, getting a good night's sleep, and arriving to school on time. Those factors are very important in the school community. This week at Crandall, grade 3 will take a tour of the town of Enfield. And on May 30th at Crandall, it says our One Book Three Schools author Jean Farouk-Allo will be visiting at Crandall as a follow-up to the book that the students read that was titled The Galaxy of the Sea Stars. Some other upcoming events, that's happening on May 30th, on May 31st. There will be a Pride Assembly at 1:45. Pride, by the way, stands for, at Crandall, it's the acronym for Patience, Respect, Integrity, Determination, and Engagement. These assemblies are held to honor the accomplishments of the Crandall students. June 2nd is their field day, so parents sign the permission slips so your child will be able to participate. June 6th, the 5th grade students will have a fun day. June 9th, there is a PTO movie night at Crandall, and June 14th is the grade 5 moving up ceremony. I had the pleasure of attending the Prudence Crandall Spring Concert that was held on May 17th. Of course, the musicians did an amazing job. The students' voices sounded melodious. The band and the orchestra were very, very good. I would like to say kudos to the talented music directors at Crandall, Melissa Clark and Mr. Eric Spaldi. Thank you, Elizabeth Tomsick, for your talents on the piano as their children's accompanist. Also, Mr. Dupere would like to wish end of the school year. He says the Prudence Crandall staff wishes all students and families a healthy and safe summer vacation. I know he says he knows it's a little early, but he wanted to put that out there anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Acree. Dr. Calnan?
The Kite Mental Health Committee met on May 10th to discuss objectives and potential strategies to be pursued in the months ahead. The committee will meet every 2 months starting next September. And to gain a better perspective on the nature of early childhood mental health challenges in our community and to gather ideas regarding possible approaches to these challenges, the committee will periodically invite a variety of experts to address the group. The short-term objectives include to approach early childhood mental health in the contexts of play and family dynamics, expansion of the Circle of Security program, and expansion of mental health services and supports for young children and their families. So that concludes my report, but I did have just a couple of questions for the superintendent, if I may. Excuse me?
Through the chair to the superintendent.
Through the chair, through the chair to the superintendent. Okay. So the health education requirements of the Department of Agriculture came up at the last curriculum committee meeting, and I was advised that that was probably not the appropriate venue for asking that question, but so I'm asking it to you. The two specific questions. How do we know that we are in compliance with the Department of Agriculture wellness policy under the federal school lunch program? And can you tell us about the School District Wellness Council that's mandated by the USDA school lunch program?
Well, the first question you're going to find out when you get to new business about it's actually on your agenda. I don't know if you knew that. Maybe just coincidental. You're going to vote no on something, but I can explain it in a little bit. So that's basically where the standards come in. It's all connected through our nutrition services program. So in order to be in line with federal and state regulations, we have to certify that we are.
Okay. So the second question?
I apologize. What was the second question?
Oh, the second.
They got me excited about it. We can do it now, but it's out of order.
Again, can you tell us about the School District Wellness Council that's mandated by the USDA school lunch program?
So there's two that and I don't want to speak out of turn. So there's two different wellness councils that we have, and I don't want to give you the wrong information. So for that, if it's okay, Madam Chair, I can get that information to the entire board. We do have two different wellness councils, and I don't want to mix up the two and give you the wrong answer on television. So
okay.
I will get that out to you, and I can share it with the entire board if that's okay. But the school lunch, the certification issue is actually on your agenda this year.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Calnan. Ms. Cushman?
First off, I wanted to recognize the Enfield High School Youth Vote Committee for the panel discussion that they hosted on May 10th. That was titled The 19th Amendment and Its Legacy. It was definitely a team effort to plan and execute, and I just offer my thanks to all the committee members and to the Youth Vote advisors. In particular, I would like to acknowledge a job well done by Brianna Carlin, Anna Bemis, and Sarah Shohana, the host and moderators of the event. At the last Board of Education meeting, a member of our community shared information that he had obtained through an FOI request regarding the proposal of the Republican Town Council members to cut the budget for the Enfield Public Schools by $1.4 million. Concern was expressed by fellow board members, and rightly so. We celebrate and recognize the value and commitment of all of our staff. This suggestion for the budget cut led many to assume the intent was to eliminate staff. Being aware of this proposal cut prior to our meeting, some members of the board reached out to town council members to validate this claim. Not being aware of the proposed cut until brought to my attention that evening at our meeting by this community member, I chose to refrain from making any comments until I likewise had the opportunity to reach out to the Republican members of the town council to understand their position. After all, there were some serious accusations being made against this Republican caucus. One would expect the Republican members of our town council, in an effort to serve the community and uphold fiscal responsibility, to make suggestions during budget negotiations as a means to save money without compromising positions. These Republican members of the town council are invested in our community and in our schools, not only as taxpayers, but some as parents of our educators and some as grandparents of our students. They care deeply about education in our community, and the accusations made against them did not seem valid. So as part of the budget deliberations, why would they make a suggestion to cut $1.4 million? Earlier in the school year, free lunches were no longer going to be available to every student. The decision was made that our district would cover the cost for every child to continue to have free lunch throughout the end of the 22-23 school year. It is my understanding that the cost to our district to continue to provide free lunch to every student through the remainder of this school year was $1 million. It is also my understanding that while our state government was not initially going to fund free lunches for the remainder of this school year, it was later determined that districts who applied could, in fact, be reimbursed for money spent on student lunches. In response to this fact, it would seem reasonable for the town to provide less money to the schools if there was going to be a substantial reimbursement made from the state. This was the reasoning behind the $1 million proposed reduction, not at the cost of staff positions, but rather taking advantage of an unexpected reimbursement from the state. For the remaining $400,000, the Republican caucus of the town council suggested a plan that they believed would make our schools safer, while at the same time being more fiscally responsible. And as a reminder, these suggestions during the budget negotiations were made not with a detailed budget as provided in past years, but with a very limited budget summary. I just wanted to address that because I know I neglected to after the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. Mr. Hamry?
Thank you very much. First, starting with the JFK PTO, thanks to everyone who came out for the student versus faculty basketball game last Friday night, and congratulations to Jaylene Rodriguez for her winning t-shirt design. Grade 6 Information Night is coming up next Tuesday, May 30th at 6:30 p.m. in the auditorium. The 8th grade awards night will be held on Tuesday, June 6th, with letters to be sent home this week for all students receiving awards. And the 8th grade semi-formal dance is Friday, June 9th. Tickets are $30 each and must be purchased online by midnight on May 25th, which would be Thursday night, this Thursday. And thanks to Leslie for forwarding the information on to me, and for all of the work that the PTO at JFK puts into their school. Had a great time at the Duncan Park last night, watching Mr. Ryder throw out the first pitch for Enfield High School's baseball senior night. It was a wonderful time, great weather for it, in a great park. And as usual, I'm going to be jumping around here, so I apologize in advance. We are coming up on Memorial Day weekend, and I would just like to encourage anyone that respects the flag to learn about the flag and how to properly display flag etiquette, proper flag etiquette. It's available on the American Legion National website, and I'm sure anybody at the local American Legion Hall would be happy to talk about proper flag etiquette at your leisure. In the work I do, I work in the human services field, and it's one thing to keep in mind that, as we heard earlier, the food shelf is the recipient of some donations at this time of year, and they were the recipient of the Parent Leadership Academy's town-wide tag sale, as has been customary. So their need does not end, nor does the need for Loaves and Fishes Soup Kitchen. The Safe Harbor Warming Center, though it is no longer cold weather season, they are still in need of support. They do have office hours, so to speak, Thursday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the St. Patrick's Basement on corner of Pearl and High Street. The need doesn't end. The families in this town will benefit from your support. Housing and food insecurity is very real, and it does affect this district as much as it does this town. So please have them in mind when you make your donations and make your volunteer efforts. To the last couple of board meetings where I've had requested that Ms. Cushman be removed from the policy subcommittee, Lady Chair, what are we working here? Tina made the point, and I do agree with and support her decision to not make any judgments, not make any changes to any policy, any committees. And I expected that to be the decision. It was the right one. And in that effort, it highlighted something very specific, very obvious that I want to address. That the Republican side of this Board of Education speaks with one voice. With the absence of Mr. LeBlanc, the three that are here with us tonight are virtually interchangeable, as they mentioned in the last board meeting, with regards to the voice that would speak on their behalf at the policy committees. So, with that in mind, it's important to note that the efforts to limit the protections of certain demographics of this town would happen regardless of who the one is on the policy committee. The efforts to restrict protections, to strip away protections, would be presumably continuing regardless of who's on the policy committee. It's important to understand that, because it's been my particular goal to make sure that we don't have to worry about that anybody can come to school and be who they want to be without fear. In this town, in this district, we have PTOs to support fun activities in the schools. We have raffles and various activities to support the sports teams. We have concessions that support the theater program. We have all of these different things to support the fun side of the various activities. We have a group that helps support the LGBTQ community in the schools in a very small window of time that they are given to keep them alive, not to provide them a fun place to go, but to prevent them from killing themselves. It's a support network that is offered among the schools. And later on tonight, we'll talk about the flag policy that was brought up at the most recent policy subcommittee meeting and the efforts that are being suggested to take away from our classrooms safe spaces for those in the LGBTQ community. Needless to say, I do not support that proposal, but I want to stress that that program that puts those flags in the classrooms is done so to offer those students that feel they need the support that they don't get elsewhere, a place where they can feel safe, where they can feel supported, where they can be among themselves, and where they can be themselves among others like themselves, and in an effort to prevent them from feeling suicidal. So when we talk about a policy that would remove the flag that they identify with as a support network that keeps them alive, please know that I am not in support of any such policy, but the three members speak with one voice on that topic. Maureen, there's a phrase that I learned a while back when dealing with the human services industry and the clients that I've met over the years. It's not my own thought, it's not my own phrase. The quote, "There but for the grace of God go I." Anybody can be one paycheck away, one bad car accident, one medical emergency away from bankruptcy, which leads to that food insecurity, which leads to that housing insecurity, which leads to the problems that would cause someone to look down their nose when they see the person that's experiencing that. So I appreciate the observation, and I thank you very much for that. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hamre. Mr. Ungeyer?
Excuse me, through the chair to the superintendent, please. So I attended the last town council meeting, and former Board of Education chair Walter Quizell spoke, and he made me aware of something that I hadn't considered before. And so this is the base of the question that I have for you, Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Ungeyer, I just want to ask you a question. If it's a budget-related question, we have to talk about the budget again, because the budget is going down $250,000, so we have to vote on it again. Would you rather have this discussion during the budget period, or do you want it during your board member comments?
During my board
Okay.
member comments. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, so it is somewhat budget related, but it's not having to do with passing a budget or anything like that. Okay, it's a general. What he mentioned was, we look in our budget and we see that we have a certain dollar value associated for each student. So there's so much of the town tax dollars that is contributed to each student. And we've seen in the past where it seems like the town of Enfield it may appear on the surface that we are not allocating as much money per student as, say, some of the other towns that may be associated with Enfield as far as population or tax base. And then what he said was that many of the other towns, their boards of education are responsible for the facilities of the schools, maintaining the schools. And so that money goes into their boards. And so that money then is calculated into the per student value. In Enfield, it's different. Our Board of Education does not and is not responsible for the facilities in this town, for maintaining and keeping up the schools and so forth. And so we're not talking apples for apples. So my question to you is, if we were to add in the value of the facilities and put us on an apples to apples comparison with other towns, what would that number change to? Could you find that out for us, please? What would that number reflect going from this to that?
like my answer now? It's already in there. It's called in-kind services. So whether the town pays the bill, when we file our number with the state, the town finance director provides that number to Mrs. Neros, and that's already included. So essentially, it is apples to apples. It's all the same amount of money. It's whether the town pays for it, they give it to us in the form of in-kind services, we report that number to the state, and it's all included in the per pupil expenditure. So there's no need to look for another number. It's all in there.
That's how bad it is.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Pickett?
You can also look on the State Department of Ed website. They share how they calculate per pupil expenditure. That's all publicly available information, so it shares how they calculate that. So it is apples to apples. So when they put out that list, it's all calculated on the same amount. All right. So it's a busy time of year. I feel like if I don't have my calendar open in front of me, I'm not someplace that I'm supposed to be. So thank you, teachers, families, staff, and be patient with each other because I need some grace at this time of year. So Enfield Street School, again, a huge thank you to our PTO. That is a fearless and fierce group of moms who are really doing their best for family engagement activities to happen at our school and supporting our school in so many ways, and not with a huge budget, but they do it with love and care. So thank you to our PTO. Lots of event planning and support. Last Friday, they did a second grade movie night. There's lots of upcoming assemblies and field trips, so parents, please make sure you're checking out that Friday newsletter on the Gazette, and if you don't check it in your email, you can always find it on the Enfield PTO page because they are posted there as well. Field Day is coming up on the 9th. Families, if you can volunteer, a slip went home. If you have a child like mine or you've misplaced that slip, you can also email Mr. Meza. Family help is always necessary on days like that. The second grade celebration is on June 5th in the morning, so please join if you have a second grader. I am so excited, and I'm sorry if I steal somebody's thunder here, although Dr. Jerry went. First Readers is having a ceremony on June 5th. I have a first reader. I am so excited. We did a drive-through ceremony, so I get the real deal. So any important people want to come on June 5th, there's going to be an amazing first reader and her friends crossing the stage. I know later on we're going to be, you discussed the incoming grade 6 parent night. I do know as a second to third grade transition parent, they're doing a visit to the school for the kiddos. It made it seem like in my permission slip, and I'm looking at another second grade mom to see if I get a head nod, that they're not planning a family portion, that the kids are going to visit. And I would just share as a mom and to some other moms that I chat with after school, those are still babies in third grade. That's a new school, new transitions, new procedures. I think it would be helpful, and I understand the constraints on scheduling, staff staying late, but as a parent, it really helps ease the anxiety if we are able to see the building, understand drop-off and pick-up routines, put some faces, so when I send my kid to a building that they've never been inside of, there's some sense of familiarity. So I would urge if there's a way that we could do some type of third grade transition for families, I would urge for that. I'd also, I think you've said it, Chris, but I'm just going to clarify around summer programming. So through the chair to the superintendent, is there any plan for summer programming for students? Will you let him answer my question?
Okay, there is summer programming, not as robust as it has been in years past. There's some summer programming that's mandatory. I know one of the priorities is we do have summer programming that's not entirely free this year because of financial constraints for some credit recovery, which is what we've done typically prior to the pandemic. There are certainly other summer opportunities that we have. I think you heard some through our art program when our guests were here last year that are some sort of fee-based. But the extensive free summer school transportation, meals, unfortunately, the funding has dried out for that, and we weren't in a position to offer that again this summer.
Thanks. So I will save some comments when we get to the budget, but I think that is an example of a lost opportunity for families and students in a way to support, especially not only our academic but our wellness work. So, unfortunate to hear that, but saw it coming. I also, and I think I said this last year, and I know most of the summer programming is in partnership with like the ERFC and our arts camp. I would love if either on the town website or our website, if we had a one-stop shop for families where if I'm looking for what's available for summer programming, I can find it. Because right now it's like 50 flyers coming home that I'm trying to figure out. So I think Windsor Public Schools, I'll highlight them. They have a nice button you press on their page and it links all of the summer programs.
But
It's
they
a lot
don't
for
do so
families
many
to
other
juggle.
things well, Mrs. Pickett.
We do amazing things here. The other thing that I wanted to thank the town council for passing our budget. I know we're going to get there, but I did just want to kind of make a couple clarifying statements now, and then I'll save the rest for kind of our discussion before approving or not approving the budget. I think it's important for folks to understand public school funding. So there's a lot of information that's publicly available to folks. I encourage you, it's not easy to find. So the State Department of Ed website is archaic and hard to mine through. Google search it. If you just put SDE Connecticut, you can find how to calculate per pupil expenditures. There's not free, it is free, public data on EdSite. So the information around how public schools are funded and what they rely on to just operate and how we compare to other districts is out there, and it's publicly available information. So it is not, so I know it can be contentious and sometimes seem like a political conversation. A lot of the information that we're talking about is publicly available fact-based information that is not based on political party. So I encourage people to look that up and to figure out that information. I also think it's important, as I understand the challenging position our town councilors are on around our town budget. It's my understanding that it's not up to our town council to determine line item cuts. That it's really about that's where we have somebody hired to do that. I also think it's interesting if there was a limited summary, yet they had a detailed plan of how to cut it. So I just think that it's just some interesting things being shared. So I think that's all I'll share for now. I'll hold the rest for future agenda items.
Mr. Ryder, thank you, Ms. Pickett. Mr. Ryder?
Yes, so first off, non-school related, I just want to thank I want to say everybody that's involved with the Enfield Townwide Tag Sale, but there's really just two of us. But again, we had another 100 addresses on the map. That was Saturday, May 20th. I know it rained, so I know a lot of people opened up Friday early or opened up on Sunday as well, and that's great because with those 100 addresses that we had a PayPal button set up for on the Enfield Food Shelf, enfieldfoodshelf.com. With those 100 addresses, we raised over another $2,500. This was the 11th year we did this. It would have been our 13th. We skipped a couple of years due to COVID. So the fundraising that we've done on the Enfield Townwide Tag Sale has reached almost $20,000 over 11 years. So I want to thank everybody who put their address on the map. I want to thank the few businesses in town that made the paper copies of the map available for those that didn't have Facebook or Instagram. And I think it's a great thing that the community came together and did. And I'm sorry about the weather, but I think it all worked out. And again, the donations went to a great, great cause. I also want to thank the Enfield High School baseball team. I was at Dunkin' Donuts Park yesterday. I was able to throw out the ceremonial first pitch for senior night, and then I was able to call the game. And I want to thank our board chair and our superintendent, Coach Goucher and his team. But more importantly, I want to thank the students and the families. So for those 7 or 8 seniors, that was kind of like for some of them, they won't play again other than in rec leagues, wherever they grow up. Some of them will go off and play in college. And who knows, maybe some of them will make the pros. But it's a great time in all of our sports, and our last play at the high school earlier this month and our last play at JFK. A lot of these group activities, we might have seniors on Buzz Robotics that were here earlier. And, to kind of have that last camaraderie thing, that's what I remembered most about school. I don't remember all of my teachers' names. I remember a handful of special ones. I remember certain grade levels, certain subjects, but it's that stuff. And I really want all the seniors that are hearing this to take a minute and appreciate it, because I know we're very excited about what happens after June 15th and 16th, but don't look to the future at the expense of the present, because you could end up sitting up here with 8 of these people. I mean, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. I mean, some of it's not awesome, but I think your last few weeks of senior year is. Once again, starting tomorrow, we have Sweet 16 school days left, with a couple of early releases thrown in there, but 16 full school days left. Last day, of course, is Thursday, June 15th. Speaking of Enfield Street School and their field day, I will be DJing that. I'll be DJing another field day this Friday at Eagle Academy. I was trying to also do Prudence Crandall's field day, but their day they're doing it as a rain date for another school. So until I know the weather, I don't know if I can commit to Prudence Crandall, but I may be helping Mr. Dupere with something else to celebrate the end of the school year. So I look forward to all of that. More than I look forward to every other Tuesday, I look forward to spending time with the kids and our staff in our buildings. That's what's important to me. Speaking of Eli Whitney, I'll be there on Monday. They're sending me up in a bucket on the fire truck crane so I can take a picture, the aerial shot. No, the bucket on the ladder so I can take a photo so we can get our class photo for the end of the year for all of our students. Also happening at Eli Whitney, we have our spring buy one, get one spring BOGO book fair. Classroom visits are this week, Wednesday to Friday. Parents are welcome to come and volunteer during their student-assigned time slots. Please reach out to the school. Fourth graders going on to a field trip to the Connecticut Science Center on Thursday. Some of our third graders are going to the dinosaur park on Friday. Fifth grade field trip to Sturbridge Village. That's the annual trip from Eli Whitney. They do that every year. That'll be Friday, June 2nd. Any parents who have turned in their volunteer form but have not gotten fingerprinted yet must schedule their appointment with central office by this Friday, May 16th. Also, the HMS second graders will be coming to tour Eli Whitney on Tuesday, May 30th. Also, Ms. Pickett, to your point, our grades 3 through 5 schools will all have open houses as the new school year approaches. And any parent that wants to reach out to the principals, I encourage you to do that, because they'll always make the opportunity for visits. As far as like the whole school, just check with your principals on dates, because they may be planning something for the fall.
You're nice.
We are also having the One Book, Three Schools author come to Whitney. That author is going to be very busy. Apparently, she's going to all 3 schools. But she'll be at Whitney on Wednesday, May 31st.
Recognizing that contract.
We have Math Field Day coming up. Check your backpacks for information regarding that. And some June dates for the Whitney families to put on their calendar. We have a year-end assembly, June 7th at 9. Letters will be mailed home this week to students receiving any awards, so the parents will be invited to come to that. 5th grade celebration will be on June 7th as well. That'll be in the afternoon. That'll be at 12:30. And then our field day will be June 8th with a rain date of June 9th. And I believe that is everything I have for this week until we get to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. I just actually have a few quick things. EHS Senior Night at Yard Goats at Duncan Park was a really fun night. The weather was beautiful. Congratulations to the seniors. It was such a great game. One bad inning, and it didn't turn out the way we had hoped, but they really stayed in it and competed. And so congratulations to them. Also, congratulations to Mr. Ryder. Shout out to the catcher, because I said to him, if you have to lean in, make it look good for him.
But did he have to?
No, he didn't. But he said that he had your back. So he was prepared. Mr. Ryder was very nervous. I was able to attend the PTO president's meeting. Henry Barnard and Crandall have this amazing partnership, and I'd love to see it happen with Hazardville and Whitney and Enfield Street and Parkman. So I'd encourage the powers that be to really listen to what these PTOs want. Henry Barnard and Crandall seem to have worked out extremely well, and it makes it really easy for families. So that is definitely something to think about. I was able to attend the PLA graduation, and I see what's happening here, and I'm very proud of you. I just have to say about this, I went to the PLA graduation last year, and it was lovely. And I went to the PLA graduation this year, and the bond that the graduates have formed is really amazing. And I was so into what you guys were saying and what you guys were sharing. I actually answered a text wrong, and the text was, does Dad need dinner? And I said no. So I thought that was funny because I was so engaged in the moment. So when I got home, but nothing could wipe the smile off my face of what you guys shared. You shared some pretty vulnerable moments, and I'm very proud of you. And then Jackie Valley was there, and Leanne Bolio. It was just a wonderful night. Congratulations to you all. Mr. Drezek, their project is excellent. It's called the Enfield Hub. Me and Jackie approved it. We said we're partner with the schools. So it's coming. It's a work in progress, but basically it's a one-stop shop for resources for families that might not have school-age children that just moved into town, to kind of talk about childcare, different sports that are available, different play groups. It was really a great way for that PLA group to come together and really help out the community. So I think it's definitely something we'd like to see in Enfield Public Schools. I offered up we could hand it out to the incoming kindergartners. Like, I was all in, and so was Jackie Valley. So I can't wait for you to hear about it. They're going to go through the proper channels to get that approved, and it really is a great community project. So I appreciate that. One last thing, SafeGrad. The front row parking spot raffle closes on May 31st. The live drawing is at 7 p.m. on June 1st. Tickets are only $10. Anyone looking to help support the class of 2023, SafeGrad has created an Amazon wish list with items that will be used for raffle prizes. Send an email to ehssafegrad2023@gmail.com if you want the link and are not on the Facebook page or the distribution list. Let's see. Morgan touched on the SafeGrad packets. I attended the Buddy Bench for, yeah, sure. Yes, if you don't have a printer at home, you can get a paper copy from Miss Aikens' office, who is a rock star with what she collects for SafeGrad. So thank you, Miss Aikens, if you're watching. I got to go to the Buddy Bench reveal of Dr. Jerry. I wish we could put his picture up on the screen of it was a nice day. The bench is wonderful. And I just wanted to say the last 2 days of school are half days with lunch. Okay, I just wanted to confirm that. And lastly, I just want to say May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and to check on your friends, relatives, and loved ones. Somebody could be around you and just be smiling, but you really don't know the internal struggle. Oftentimes, people with mental health conditions are the ones that show the bravest face when they're in public. So make sure you check on your friends. Also check on yourself. It's okay to recognize when you are not feeling the way you should be feeling. And don't be afraid to reach out to a friend. For our students, I know you're going through a lot. It's not easy. And for the parents, the same to you. So I just wanted to say that. And that is all I have for that this evening. So item 10, unfinished business. There is none. Item 11, new business. Item A, approve the Lester J. Bodley Scholarship recipients.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing I left out of the superintendent's report in case somebody else touched on it, but we're 3 for 3. 2 mayors and a vice chair of the board have all thrown strikes on the first pitch at Dunkin' Donuts Park, so Mr. Ryder didn't let us down. But back since 2004, the Enfield Board of Education has announced the recipients of the Lester J. Bodley Memorial Scholarship at a board meeting. These scholarships are awarded each year to a male and female graduating student from Enfield High School, and such donations are permissible under the town charter. Enclosed in your packet is information provided by Enfield High School Common Application Selection Committee, but due to student confidentiality, we're recommending that both students be referred to as Student A and Student B instead of announcing their names publicly. So therefore, the Enfield Board of Education may take any actions deemed appropriate to award the 2023 Lester J. Bodley Memorial Scholarships for Student A and Student B as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve the Lester J. Bodley Scholarship recipients, Student A and Student B?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Ungary, second by Mr. Ryder. Any discussion? Sensing none, roll call.
Mr. Hamry,
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Ungary,
4.
Mrs. Apri,
4.
Dr. Callen,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
4.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes.
Item B, discussion and action regarding the 2023-2024 Healthy Food Certification.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the weird one where you're actually, if you vote, and you're asking you to vote no. But this kind of ties back to Dr. Jerry's question earlier on. We are required, the state of Connecticut requires that our nutrition services, and there's a memo in your packet, certifies that we certify a statement that all of our food items sold to students will meet or will not meet this Connecticut nutritional standards, and then obviously the federal and state nutritional guidelines. We do. But if you certify as being what the state considers the state healthy food certification, that you are and you become certified as a state healthy food certification, your reimbursement for the meals that you prepare is lower because there's a certain level of criteria that you have to meet. It does not mean that our food is not certified. It's the same quality. You've been doing it the same, this vote for, I believe, 20 years now. Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong. So it's a weird one where we're asking you to vote no, because if you were to vote yes, then we have to change essentially what we serve, how we serve, and most importantly, how much we charge to students. So we do meet all the criteria of the federal and state nutritional guidelines, but if we were to go ahead and certify that we are going under the state's category, then we're not able to allow our lunch prices to remain where they are. Does that make sense? Go ahead. Sorry.
We're going to move and then discuss?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do I have a motion regarding to approve the 2023-2024 Healthy Food Certification?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hamry, second by Ms. Pickett. Any discussion? Mr. Ryder?
Question. I believe you've said this to boards in the past in my 6 years. This also would kind of handcuff concession sales. This would put PTO fundraisers, et cetera, under the same blanket and would essentially limit or cancel them altogether. You would not be able to sell any prepared foods out of the cafeteria, for example, at the football stands, baseball plays, et cetera. Is that correct?
Correct. So by signing off that you are certifying as a healthy food certification, that goes as a blanket for any food that's served within the district. So as Mr. Ryder, you are correct. So if a family wants to bring in cupcakes, I know we don't do cupcakes anymore, but hypothetically, bad example, sorry. PTO wants to have a fundraiser and sell a particular food, popcorn on movie night, can't sell it, doesn't meet the standards of healthy food certification. Concessions at sporting events. And also some of the a la carte items that we do sell at our secondary schools will not be permissible to sell if you have that certification. So ultimately the board would elect to not certify the 2023-2024 healthy food certification statement.
Ms. Pickett?
I'm just wondering, in any way, shape, or form, does that preclude us from any type of potential like grant or program that we can get through the feds? So like I know there's a lot of like farm to table conversations happening and like ways to get healthier and fresher foods in schools.
It's a loaded question, Mrs. Pickett. No, when it comes to grants, when it comes to the main one is the reimbursable, and there was a reference to it earlier. And I'm sure we'll get to it at the budget discussion if the board chooses to. That won't limit the reimbursable amount that our Nutrition Services Department can collect. And that also will not prohibit us from exploring opportunities for grants. There's a big push for us to go for things like farm to school. And the problem is right now the supply chain issues that we're dealing with across the board have become a bit more problematic. Let's just get that out. I guess I just approved you guys too, so you don't have to stay here all night.
Any other discussion? So it's a no vote. No means yes. Roll call, Kathy?
Mr. Hamry,
No.
Mrs. Pickett,
No.
Mr. Ryder,
No.
Mr. Ungary,
No.
Mrs. Apri,
No.
Dr. Callen,
No.
Mrs. Cushman,
Against.
Madam Chair.
No.
Motion does not pass.
Item C, revise the 2023-2024 school calendar. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we mentioned at our previous meeting, when the board adopted the calendar back in February as per policy, we were kind of split when it came to next year's April vacation week. And one thing that we didn't realize, and I have some more information, that other districts found themselves in the very same position that we were, particularly districts that participate in the CCC. So one of the challenges with if we line up with districts that are surrounding us, that's great if people live in that staff members live in the surrounding communities. But what we found is that if the vacation weeks don't line up, is particularly for some of our extracurricular activities, that can prohibit some of those events from taking place for a 2-week period of time. So I have heard some other districts that are in our conference, that are in our area, have also made the switch. There's other districts that chose not to do it, but to line ourselves up. And I appreciate Kathy did a lot of research on this about all the districts in our conference to make sure that we lined up. So the recommendation would be to alter the vacation week back to April 8th through the 12th for next school year, and also to give people appropriate time to plan for the following April break.
Do we need to make a motion to approve it? Yeah.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve the revised 2023-2024 school calendar for April break?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Pickett, second by Mr. Ryder. Any discussion? Ms. Pickett?
So I was recently chatted about with some staff members who were like, oh, but it's not like I live in this town and it's not for my town. And so I think that it's interesting. I did a quick survey and it seems like it's kind of all over the place. There's some districts that are doing like the first week in April. Like it seems a little wonky. I understand how important the athletic calendar is to kind of line up, but I also think some of our decisions are bigger. So my wonder is maybe if there's some ways for next year calendar that we're getting some feedback from staff and families around those types of things like preferences or where they live and what would be helpful to align to. It's really hard to make a calendar that works for everybody. So I understand the challenge that we're in.
If I can add one thing that you guys can advocate for as part of your roles is years ago there was a proposed regional calendar, so we wouldn't be in positions like the position that we're in now. Up until this past year, we've all been following what we're referring to as the correct calendar. So we didn't have any of these issues with not lining up. For some apparent reason this year, it was all over the place. I will caution you on that. Careful what you wish for. Because if you ask for everyone's opinion, you're going to aggravate 90% of people in town. So if you want to ask, send all the inquiries to Mrs. Pickett and let me know, because this is your decision.
I'll take it.
I don't want the calls.
In reality, she answers the phone, so please don't do that.
And so I think, just to clarify, I get that like not everybody's going to be happy, but I also think it's the bigger conversation around the calendar. And so I think about when we voted on this, when we were looking at like attendance patterns. So like when we have that half day before Thanksgiving, is it worthwhile to have a half day, or do we just take the day off and do a staff PD because we have so many kids that are out when we're looking at that kind of data? So I just think of like how we make decisions about calendar, thinking about multiple sources.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Mr. Ryder?
So choosing the date of the calendar, which we approve during our February meetings, whether it's the first or second meeting in February, is per our policy. So we could also look at when, like you're saying, a regional calendar or when more information comes in, we could always push back our due date of the calendar a couple of weeks. And this could be something we could address in March once more districts have their ducks in a row. However, it is always an option to make this change as we're doing this evening. So we can look at both options.
And just to add to that, the nexus of that February date has always been locking in a firm graduation date for events like Safe Grad. So just keep that in mind as well. The longer you wait, the longer those groups can't plan. I agree with you. Yes, it would be helpful this year if we had waited a couple of weeks.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mr. Hamry?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Approving the change.
Mr. Umberg?
4.
Mrs. Acree?
4.
Dr. Kalman?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
4.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item D, proposed new policy and policy revision, first reading. Mr. Ryder?
There were just two. The policy committee met last week, and there was 2 items that we pushed forward to the 9 some of us to consider. And the first of the two is Policy 6144 regarding controversial issues with regard to instruction of them. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the first reading of policy number 6144.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hamre, second by Ms. Cree. Any discussion? Ms. Pickett?
Sorry, you know me, I always got something to say. So I had a small chat with Mr. Ryder, but part of me wonders, and I don't know if I can ask Ryder to you, Scott, or to Andy, is this a legislatively mandated policy? No. So some of my worry a bit is when we over policy stuff. And I think sometimes it's nice to have a policy about something, but is it truly necessary? And also, what is the purpose of the policy? So when I was reading this, I was a little bit concerned because I feel like we had just approved a policy on civil discourse. And we have other policies around kind of behavior and curriculum content. And so part of me wonders about why do we need this, and how does it already align to other pieces? I also think defining a term like controversial can get controversial in and of itself. So for example, talking about a topic such as race, American history, things like that are not controversial to me. So if it gets put under this policy, how are we, who gets to make that determination? So I guess for me is if it's not legislative mandated, I'm not exactly sure if this policy is all that helpful.
So to the first point, related to, what was the first thing you said about behavior?
If it
You
was
said we recently approved a policy regarding
civil discourse.
Yes, so that's related to behavior. This is related to instruction and actual in-classroom topics. The other policy that you referenced was more related to behaviors of students. Therefore, we expect you to act on a road game or visiting another school the same way we'd ask you to act inside of our Enfield Public Schools buildings. That was more related to behavioral. And that also was broader in the sense that it wasn't just regarding students, that there was also, if we were inviting the students' families, if we're inviting, that we don't want our parents badgering a referee at an away game, et cetera. So that was more for behavioral. This is more for instruction. Mr. Lung, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you did a good job. And Ms. Pickey, you're right. I mean, this policy was discussed for almost a full year, I think. Right, Scott? It was a long time.
Yeah, it first came up last fall.
Yeah, so this was a lot of discussion. It is not mandatory. So this is a policy you do not have to have. I think it may give teachers a little guidance and building administrators a little guidance. But you are right. Sometimes we can over policy, for lack of better words. But that's your decision. That's the board's decision. It came out of the subcommittee as a group. They moved it forward. So it's up to you guys now.
And if I might add, the one thing about that, I don't disagree with the idea that it's over policies, like it's, oh, here we go with another policy. In the work I've done in the past with the military support and talking about regulations for Army type things and military blah, blah, blahs, one of the big things that would come up in those conversations where we were talking about unit readiness was the existence of any particular policy that we would be holding up a commander to. So in this case, as Andy was alluding, it's more of a policy to preempt any issues that might come up, to have a policy in place in the event that something would be deemed controversial and how to approach it.
We found that the first thing somebody would say if you've done something that they disagree with is, well, show me where it says that. And this policy, we thought, would give some of that, show me where it says that, to staff and to administrators. And that's really the root of it.
Yeah, and that's why I have still chills, because that's what I used to hear all the time.
Right. And again, this is something that we discussed for months and months, and really just wanted to bring it to the board and take it out of subcommittee and say, all right, are we doing this or not? So that's where this came from. That's the thinking behind it. And we're just looking to give administrators and teachers something to look for.
Any other discussion? Ms. Cushman?
I did just want to add that I felt like this does give our teachers some guidelines so that they can have some open and constructive discussions with the kids, with our students, with confidence. You know, we did spend a great deal of time discussing it, and one of the things that I was concerned about was that I felt like the wording of this particular policy was weak. I really felt like in teaching about controversial issues, it would seem that the role of our educators really is to introduce to our students balanced, objective, and scholarly information from a variety of perspectives. And so it concerned me that this particular policy was just talking about opinions. And I was just looking to have a little bit stronger, a stronger vocabulary used so that we're presenting to our students this balanced scholarly information, giving them opportunities to examine the issues on their own without prejudice, and to really encouraging them to withhold all judgments until they have a chance to assemble all the facts and to weigh the relationships before they draw their conclusions and create their personal opinions. So I just had wanted to leave out opinion from this particular thing and to substitute it with balanced, scholarly, objective information.
Thank you. Mr. Ungeyer?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to review this policy in detail, and I think there's a lot of elements of it are very good. And there again a couple of elements, a couple of pieces in here that could be improved. And we had talked about it, and Janet had, Ms. Cushman had some alternative wording in a couple of those areas that appeared weak that would have been better, in my opinion, my humble opinion. So I think the policy is good, a lot of good elements in it, but I think it could be improved.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, Kathy?
Mr. Hamry? Yes.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Ungeyer?
4.
Mrs. Dupree?
4.
Dr. Kalman?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
4.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The second and final policy that we are presenting for a first reading this evening came from a policy that we were given as suggestive language, not required, but there was one piece of it that the subcommittee wanted to add to a current existing policy, number 9121, regarding responsibilities of the bylaws of the board regarding the responsibility specific to the chairperson. So we just added one line to that, which is included in your packets. So I'm seeking a motion to approve the first reading of this 9121.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Pickett.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hamry. Any discussion? Roll call, Kathy?
Mr. Hamry?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Ungeyer?
4.
Mrs. Dupree?
4.
Dr. Kalman?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
4.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item E, approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Mr. Drezek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I believe it was stated earlier, the Town Council has appropriated the Board of Education's budget request. I want to thank the Council for the appropriation that they provided to the Board. I also want to take a chance to thank the Town Manager. Her and I worked very closely together over the last 9 or so months to get to something that ultimately was approved by the Council and adopted by you as well. But the thing is, the request that the Board had made, the original $76 million proposal that the Board had requested, there was a modest decrease made to that. As I shared with the Board, that there was a $250,000 reduction in our proposed health insurance line item for next year. So our health insurance, as you know, as I shared during the budget presentation, we always come in at a more conservative figure, and that gets reduced as the year progresses. So you're able to make that reduction in that particular line item for $250,000. However, I don't have the ability to do that. So you actually have to formally adopt the new budget amount with that reduction if you so choose to make it in the $250,000 line item reduction into health insurance is pretty painless. If you decide to cut it from somewhere else, that's on you. But you can do that without making any changes to programs or staff. But the board does need to formally adopt that number, and then we ultimately can get the number finalized and sent over to the town.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget minus the $250,000 for?
And I apologize, Madam Chair, I can give you the number. It's $75,928,354.
Minus the healthcare.
That includes your
includes the
ask was
healthcare.
$76,178,354, and your appropriation was $75,928,354.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Kalnin.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pickett. Any discussion?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
We're not just addressing the 200,000. We're addressing. We're not just addressing the $250,000 insurance thing. We're addressing the entire budget. Yes.
Yes, by the
Okay.
250.
All right. Thank you.
We're addressing the new number.
The new number.
Correct.
Correct. Understood.
Yep. Any discussion?
Yes, sorry, always. So I think this is my opportunity to speak a little bit again about our budget. I think there's a couple of things to clarify. I know there was a lot of discrepancy in the conversation about Alliance District funding. And so I'm going to share something that I think is important for town councilors to understand, that if we get the direct funding from the state to Board of Ed, the town cannot decrease our budget by that amount. The whole purpose of that funding is to supplement our education because we're underfunded. So you can't decide like, oh, they get that $1 million directly, we're going to cut them by $1 million. That's not how it works. The reason we get the $1 million is because we're underfunded. So I think that's really important for people to understand. The other thing that I think is important is that I am very thankful for our Democratic caucus for voting yes. I know there are many towns around us where their budgets are being slashed, and it's a really painful place to be. I think it is interesting. There is a local town in Connecticut that had an opportunity that you could vote 3 ways on your budget. You could vote yes, you could vote no, it's too high, or you could vote no, it's too low. And I would sit here and vote no, it's too low. I asked for a greedy budget, and I think it's really important that at some point we do have an understanding of what would it take to really meet the students' needs, what would that programming look like, and how much would that cost. I think our students and our staff deserve that, and our town needs to understand just how underfunded our education system really is.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Mr. Hamry?
Excuse me, I apologize. And I want to take a moment, as Amanda did, to speak to some of the points that we've heard about the proposed budget cut that had been recommended. As Mr. Ungar pointed out earlier, the proposed budget cut was a proposal based on putting together a district budget that would be hanging on a reimbursement that we could or could not get. Maybe it comes in, maybe it doesn't. And as Ms. Pickett also thanked the town council that approved the budget, I also thank them because we are responsible with our district. We are not here to put together a budget that's based on hypotheticals and the hopes that we get reimbursed. So to have a budget that was approved with a minor adjustment that we just made the motion for, I do appreciate that we have a district that will benefit from the investment for maintaining services, not increasing, maintaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamry. Mr. Ryder?
Through the chair to the superintendent. So one of the things that I heard when I was listening to the town council deliberate over our budget was there didn't seem to be clarity from both sides of the aisle on our 2% carryover. And without, could you just clarify? I know that in the past, we were always kind of had that 2% carryover agreement with the town managers in the past. And then it was law. And now it is law that we can carry over 2%. And we don't have that 2% to carry over. Where did our 2% go?
Well, it wasn't always law.
No, it
it
is
wasn't
now,
always
right.
agreed upon. It's been recent years. But in order to achieve that, it's like they know. In order to achieve that 2%, it's a carryover of your current year's money. So you're saving your own money by counting your pennies and carry over to the following year to offset what your proposed budget increase can be. We achieved that essentially by something we do, and the Finance Committee can jump in. We freeze our budget pretty early in the process to make sure we have enough money to get us through the end of the year and also to carry over in the event that we're able to have it. We have a great business manager who's able to plan appropriately to ensure that we could reserve those funds aside. As I explained when I first presented the budget to you, this was a very different year. We simply don't have it. I've said how many times from this table that our special education referrals are up 20% this current school year. That's not free. So every time you have to do a referral for a special education, I'm not pointing directly at special education, that's just one of the more costly areas. Our outplacements have increased dramatically, and these are outplacements that can cost anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000 plus a year per student in the event we don't have the programming in-house. We have a wonderful program at Eagle Academy that was designed and agreed upon unanimously by the board, and also the council was involved at the time, to try to bring our kids back home and to avoid outplacing our students. But we said it very clearly at the time. We needed 6 to be self-sufficient, and we can cap it at about 25 kids. We physically don't have the space to put more kids in there. We've got over 25 right now. So I have nowhere else to put these children. So unfortunately, we're seeing a drastic increase in the amount of outplaced students that we did. We had to make some decisions with regards to some of the COVID funding that has come in recently over the years and priorities that switched. The Alliance thing last year really did throw a wrench into not just our budgeting process, but the town's budgeting process. There were projects, as you guys are all aware, that we had to cover as part of this, as our working agreement with the town, but the money had to come from somewhere. So if it was written in the grant and then all of a sudden we have the bill, we then have to take that money out of the grant, replace it with something that's eligible, but then that money falls on ours. An example, we've done some projects here that ordinarily the town didn't have a plan to do, like our tennis courts, which are wonderful. They're awesome. We had one of the best tennis teams in the state last year. We had to host our first round tennis tournament at Suffield High School. So we got together and worked with the town, but we had to allocate some of our art money to pay for the courts. Well, we had already built in some of the staff, and we talked about stretching those funds over a period of time. Well, if we can't spend it twice. I like you guys. You're all wonderful people. I'm not going to jail for you, and there's one thing you don't do is misuse Fed money. So we had to make some adjustments to the grant process in order to manage that process. Things that came up throughout the year. I mean, Mr. Hammer, you referenced it earlier at the beginning of the meeting with a moment of silence. A lot changed in the world in the last year. We had to bolster we've always had security officers in the district, but we had to make some security enhancements throughout the district in response to the world that we live in. This stuff costs money. Is that a better use of our resources to work some of the grant money that ultimately ended up back in our appropriation because we had to pay for other projects? But if anybody wants me to advocate to get rid of security personnel in 2023, then go ahead and take a vote and do it and tell me to do it, but I'm not doing it. Nothing personal. So it's those types of things, Mr. Ryder, that in addition to inflation, in addition to everything costing more, in addition to a teacher shortage, so if we're in a position where we have to hire somebody and it's required, when we have a budget of $50,000 for a staff member and I can't find somebody to fill that job, the options are we don't teach that subject or we pay more for it. World language is a perfect example. Do you want to look all of the JFK parents who have their kids signed up for Spanish next year and say sorry? Or do I have to spend a little bit more to get a teacher in here in order to teach it? So it really was the perfect storm, but the reality is we don't have the money this year. We had the 2% reserve, and this is the part, and again, I wasn't part of these meetings, so I've gotten some questions from some of you about it. That money was in case of emergency, because I got to remind all 9 of you, if you run out of money, so this appropriation for next year, 75 to 928, 354. You spend $355, you got to go back to the council and ask them for that dollar, or you own it. So rule number one on my job is don't spend more than I'm given, or else not only am I fired, I'm probably going to jail, and I revert back to what I said earlier. I like you all, I'm not going to jail for you. So we have to make, that 2% was always a cushion in case of an emergency. Well, we're in an emergency. Everything came hitting at once. So that's the reality of what happened with that 2%. I mean, there are other specifics I can get into, but I've already gone on long enough. I don't know if that answered your question, Mr. Ryder, but I hope it did.
No, just reiterating the specifics, I think helps for everybody to hear again, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Ungar?
So when we voted on the budget as proposed, I'll speak for myself right now, okay? So I voted no on that budget. I voted no on the budget because I felt that the budget that was provided to this board was insufficient and that it was incomplete, okay? It didn't measure up to the level of detail and the level of visibility that was provided to earlier boards. And we couldn't get too deep into it, okay? And so for that reason alone is why I voted no against the budget. Wasn't that I disagreed with the 3.96% increase at the time. And it didn't say that that was unreasonable. But it was because we didn't have the visibility that we felt we needed to have, or at least I felt I needed to have to properly represent the good taxpayers and the duty that we have to protect them as well. And then I understand then that the budget had gone to the town council, it was in deliberations, and that the town council had found opportunities for savings in the budget that wouldn't cut staff or services. And we didn't take advantage. I understand that the council didn't take advantage of those opportunities. So I'm not going to support the budget tonight because I'd like it to be a signal to the administration for future boards to provide at least a level of financial disclosure and detail that you had provided to earlier boards. I think we're due that. And that's my...
I just want to add, when we presented the budget to the town council, I looked at every town councilor and said, if you have any questions, call. I said, there is representatives from both caucuses. So if you have a question about our budget, call us and discuss it. It's not for the town council to look at our budget and say, we have ways for you to cut, without even having a conversation with even their own caucus. I had questions, we've gotten questions from our caucus about the nutrition money, ARPA funds, the 2%, but I didn't hear from anybody, and it was apparent, obviously, that you hadn't heard either, and I feel bad for putting you on the spot because I didn't realize that you guys didn't have that conversation. It's not, we've had this conversation before, if the town council reduces our budget, it's up to the superintendent to meet with all the departments and decide where those cuts are going to go. It's not going to come from a recommendation that says, I think you can get $1 million off here and 400 there. I mean, they would have had the answer to the question if they had just opened the door to their caucus. I think what's interesting too is the 2% carryover. This budget was presented, I think, on January 24th, 2023. And on page 19, there's a whole explanation of why we didn't have the 2% carryover. Drastic increase, 22% increase in SPED referrals. Psych evals required even if in-house staff not sufficient. Outplacements have gone up rapidly. Staff retention. I think it was pretty clear in that budget presentation as to why that 2% wasn't available. As far as the ARPA funds go, I know that we did partner with the town last year because we could use some of those funds. So I think we paved with the town Enfield Street parking because that was horrible, Henry Barnard, and the tennis courts. So we used our ARPA money in conjunction with the town and partnered with the town to get some projects done, because if anybody drives or goes to Enfield Street School, you know how bad it is. And there was actually, the registrar of voters were concerned even about the Enfield Street parking lot. The other thing I wanted to ask Mr. Drezek is, can you explain why that nutrition money?
Sure.
Explain the process.
Want to
with that,
explain the
please.
whole process?
Well, the reason why the $1 million
Quickly as I
isn't
can.
readily available to write a check, I guess.
Okay. It's not. The short answer is it's not your money. It's federal money that's policed by the state of Connecticut. So every dollar that we collect for selling a meal to a student, there's a reimbursable tag. So let's just hit all the greatest hits here, because I'm sure at some point in your lives you guys got a picture of a garbage can full of green beans. In order for that meal to count as a reimbursable meal in the eyes of the federal government and then ultimately policed by the state, is we have to serve a certain proportion to each student. It has to include, of the 5 components, a grain, fruit, vegetable, and a thing of milk. Even if the kids throw the green beans away, doesn't matter. I know it sounds terrible. I'd love to give that food, talk about food insecurity earlier. I'd love to be able to give that. We can't. And the feds say, we don't care if they throw it away, because we want kids to eat it. We realize that 50% of the kids may not eat it, but then 50% that ordinarily wouldn't, they can't eat it if they didn't have it. So in order to get that reimbursable dollar figure for the lunch, you have to provide all of the components for it. When we charge prior to COVID, I got to take you a step back. When the world shut down, the one thing that the previous board, but a lot of you were members of it, was a priority was when the world closed, a lot of our kids relied on us for their healthy meal for the day, for the week, in some cases their breakfast as well. So we continued to feed kids. And if you recall, we had 2 stations, one at Enfield High, one at JFK, that were drive-through stations where kids would literally drive their bikes to get lunches. Families would show up. Kids would ask if they can take ones home for their siblings. But we all did that with the notion of who normally pays us. They were also closed. They weren't processing payments. And our staff was working, that we weren't laying them off, but they were still serving food without the benefit of a mask. So during that time, we were running deficits in our nutrition services department. They are self-funding. So in your budget, in the book, that if you want another one, you could turn over to, and I can address that too if you want me to, as far as what's in here and what's not in here. Just hit everything at once. But page 40 of 48, there's always a negative number in your budget. That's what Nutrition Services reimburses the Board of Ed for the board expenses for running the nutrition program. So the employees are ours, the benefits are ours, but they charge for lunch, they get reimbursed, and they pay us back. During COVID and the subsequent years after, they weren't charging for lunch, they weren't getting reimbursed back initially, so the board was eating the expense, rightfully so. What our nutrition service staff is permitted to do is carry up to 3 months of operating expenses at one time as a reserve. Apparently no one listens to you either, Dr. Jerry, because you say this all the time too, and I always giggle, like, no one really says what listen to what he's saying. So of that, it costs essentially $280,000 a month to run nutrition services. So if you multiply that times 3, there's about $900,000 that they're allowed to keep in the bank in the event something were to happen. Typically, that reserve is for major capital expenditures. So if an oven goes, if a mixer goes, or a oven warmer, or whatever it is that we have to buy in order to run nutrition services, meaning Diane Edwards, has to have a reserve in order to fix that. Now, we're in a fortunate position where a lot of the capital improvements, we have 2 brand new production kitchens. So the need for equipment replacement, refrigerators, freezers, things like that is not necessarily required. But she is still required to keep money in a reserve, because the thing is, she has to pay her bills within 30 days, and the feds don't reimburse us for up to 8 weeks. And if she doesn't pay her bills in 30 days, then they're not going to deliver food any longer. Now, some may say, well, why do we have extra money, or why do we not have enough money? Because shouldn't the cost of the food have stayed the same because we're on a state or a federal bid? Yes. However, something happened in the last 3 years that every contract was essentially voided for. It was called an act of God. and the act of God was COVID, and then the prices we had locked in for things got waived because no one can control the supply chain issue. So things cost more. We're finally catching up. So it costs us $2.25. We charge a family for a meal. We get reimbursed from the federal government $4 for that meal. So that's where the extra funding had come to in the reserve account in nutrition services. That was above. It was about, ironic that all the numbers I'm hearing people throwing out, everything is $1.4 million. What you asked me earlier, Madam Chair, the construction projects, $1.4 million. Alliance money, $1.4 million. 2%, I heard this too. 2%, somebody told me it was $2 million. I hope it wasn't a council member because then you didn't count. It's $1.4 million. Everything comes out to 1.4. I don't know if it's weird, if you guys planned that, but every question I got centered on $1.4 million. I don't know where it came from. I'm not in those conversations.
So basically, that's money.
So that money
was paid back to ourselves.
Was paid back to ourselves
because we fronted it when everything
here's
was
the
shut
thing.
down.
The money is still in the account. We have to illegally allow her to keep certain amount of reserves in order to cover our bills, because if we don't pay our bills in 30 days, they're not going to give us our food anymore.
Basically, if we cut the $1 million, we're actually out $2 million. Because the $1 million makes us flush for all the lunches that we had, or a little bit more because it's $4.
A little bit more. So it's $4 of reimbursement, but essentially there's money in the reserve that exceeds what her 3 months carryover could be. I can't legally just go take it. Now, one of the things that I brought to the board early on, and somebody referenced feeding kids when the state wasn't paying for it, one of the allowable expenses for that extra money. It's not like I can just take it and say, I want to put a new roof on a building, I'm taking money from nutrition. It's not our money. It's the feds, it's policed by the state. There has to be a reason what you're taking that funding for. If it's an approved expense through the school nutrition program, then we can use it. As an example, Mrs. Pickett mentioned earlier, and I didn't plan this, farm to school. If we wanted to start a farm to school program, but we needed money and there was extra money in our nutrition service program, that's an allowable expense. If we can't just take it just to balance out the budget, unless we ask permission to the state to repay us back for the money that we had fronted our nutrition service program. One of the allowable expenses was when we were not charging kids for lunch and the state stopped paying us, we had money in reserve that we were able to use because that was an allowable expense to continue feeding kids for free. If we were to say we're going to take that money and pay for soccer, the state would say, no, you can't. We didn't need permission to continue to feed kids for free because it was allowable. Taking that money to balance out the budget, we don't have the authority to do. We can ask for permission. We are in that process, but unfortunately, when the question was raised, the council was in the middle of deliberations and they had a drop dead date of when they needed to know. I'm not going to have an answer in time to tell them whether we can get our hands on that money to balance out the budget.
Right.
That was a long answer, but
that's okay.
It's a lot. You asked for everything.
Mr. Hamry?
Thank you. One of the things I want to just take a moment to point out, the superintendent has a very knowledgeable and expert staff member in the finance department, where Dr. Callanan and I get to sit down once a month and review the board budget. Everything that Superintendent Drezig just mentioned, we've heard before because we asked those questions. And the business manager gives us the answers. We've had those conversations, and as I said at the last meeting, we have not had a Republican representative in those finance meetings to hear the answers to the questions. So this is all familiar information to us because we've been there and we've asked about that, specifically about the surplus in our food nutrition program. We've looked at that and I've said personally, can you please explain why we have this large balance at the end of the sheet? Why are we carrying this? We've been over that. That's what we do because we're responsible to the taxpayers of this district and the voters and the families and everybody else that's got a stake in this game. I do want to take one quick side step that Mr. Ungar indicated that he's going to vote no for this budget based on that and the fact that the budget looks different this year. As I mentioned in the last conversation, or I don't even know when it happened, that we were given a heads up by the superintendent in November, I believe it was, of a different format for the budget. And once we were in receipt of the new version, the new layout, Mr. Ungar questioned that, and we were provided a copy of a former budget to look at what was and what is. Both budgets included exactly the same information. And that would be the response, that no, it doesn't. It's not true. I mean, I've seen that. We have a budget that does break down by school, and no, it doesn't get down into the minutia of how many pens do we need at JFK. It does, but we have a budget that was presented in advance, and the format change was known well before we got to this actual budget discussion. And to turn down a budget, to deny a budget because it looks different, that just hurts in a way that I can't quite grasp. It's like, wow, we're gonna say we no to this because it doesn't look the same. And I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Ungar?
Yeah. We were told by the superintendent that the budget would be different this year. And some people expect that their expectation of what different is that, oh, I'm going to be satisfied with getting less than what they had. My expectation was we're getting better at what we do, and it will be even better than what we had. Okay? If it would, when I say better, I mean more. We would have gotten more detail. We would have gotten more understanding of where these finances are being dedicated to. Some people on this board would be very happy, I am sure, if the superintendent just gave them the number, the bottom line number. This is how much it is, $75 million, $76 million for the year. Here's your budget. Well, I'm not satisfied with that, okay? I think we have a responsibility to the taxpayer, and I want to be sure that we're doing our due diligence and our duty to the taxpayers of this town. When half of the budget for the entire town is in education, I think we should have the level of visibility that at least was provided to earlier boards, if not more. Okay, so that's my position. Thank you.
Ms. Pickett?
So I think it's important to understand process. So there was a proposed budget that the superintendent gave to us, and that night we all received a 5-page, high leverage, high overview of the budget. I know that I emailed, and then a clear process from the chairwoman that if you had any questions or concerns to let her know, and that she would forward that information to the superintendent and get our questions answered. I know I sent probably too long of an email with lots of questions. On February 8th, we then were sent a 35-page document outlining detailed budgets per school, per department, and it was color-coded. And actually, I might take a little bit of blame of this. I asked when Chris was presenting our supports and our services, that our budget kind of talks to what are the needs of our students and how does our budget support needs. And I think actually the color coding does a nice job of seeing where money is being spent and how it supports our students in various ways. So that is what the format change was. As far as the line items that are shared, has been consistent through other budgets. So I think that's just important to understand. I also think it's important that when you vote no on a budget, regardless of your reason for no, it's a no. So I think that's also an important thing for voters to understand.
Sure, Mr. Ungar.
Well, Ms. Pickett, I'm happy to hear that you were not satisfied with the 5 pages, okay? But there were some members.
I don't think that's what she said.
I'm sorry, did I misunderstand her?
I didn't say that I wasn't satisfied. I just said that we got additional information.
Yes. Okay, all right. So then I agree that we were provided with you say 35, I thought it was 34-page additional document. What I saw in that 34-page document was that what we had in the 5 pages, which was a summary, each little line item was taken off of that and put into its own separate page without really much more detail beyond that. okay? And so, again, although you took 5 pages and turned it into 34 pages, it just didn't contain any additional information, and that's why I was not satisfied with even the 34 pages.
So I think there could have been a clear question of if there were line items that you wanted to see, you could have clearly asked for those, because I know these budget
I
numbers.
did. See, I'm sorry. I'll wait until you're finished.
Thank you. Because I know these numbers are not calculated out of thin air, and there's very extensive reporting that has to go around, especially any federal dollars that are being spent and things like that. So I would just say that if you had detailed questions about the budget, I was aware of a process.
Mr. Ryder?
So, first, before I call this to a vote, I'm tired of sitting here silent while you play games with 5,000 students and staff because you didn't like the number of pages that you got or the colors they were colored. That is not what this is about. You can pretend that you're combing and taking care of tax dollars. Send a rep from your party to budget meetings. When was the last time there were 3 people at a budget meeting? 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. You don't have to answer, it's rhetorical. To a subcommittee meeting.
I'm sorry, are you talking, Scott, are you referring to the finance meeting?
Yeah, finance meeting.
I've been to the finance
Let him
meeting,
finish,
Scott.
please. Let him
And I'm not
finish.
even the finance guy.
Mr. Ungary, we let you have your time.
Mr. Ungary, there was no presence from your caucus for months, plural, during the budget deliberation and process. Stop pretending you care when you can't make 1-hour meeting once a month. Please communicate with your town council cohorts, get on the same page, and stop playing with our students' lives. I call to vote, please, on this budget. We've beaten this. We're good. Thank you.
I would like to add, because I've been listening, so I'm going to go right now. I think that's where my frustration comes in, because I went to the council, I went to the deliberation on the schools, and then I went to the actual town council budget vote. And I was very frustrated because there was all this like feigning ignorance, like we didn't know, we didn't have this on time, we didn't get enough information. I mean, this was presented January 24th, 2023. And then when did we present? May 1st? I believe we presented May 1st.
The joint one with the town manager?
Yes.
I believe it was May 1st.
And again, I offered up 9 of us to say, call us if you have any questions. I think saying or trying to spin that it was hasty or there wasn't enough information, there was plenty of time to get information that was needed. And there was plenty of time to have conversations. One of the speakers at that town council meeting had an excellent point. What other department in the town was asked to reduce their budget by 48%? And the problem is, after listening to the town council meeting, they're playing catch up because there was a credit card debt that became due. And so now they're at the mercy of having to not raise taxes, try not to raise taxes. But like I said before, tell me what new services I've gotten. I thank the Democratic town councilors for doing their homework, for asking questions, for reaching out to the board, and just getting acclimated with our budget. There was a Democratic town councilor that did not like the budget, but took the time to call and understand it. And I know this was a conversation in the budget deliberations about the way our budget was prepared. And I think Ms. Zappo even said, for the next budget cycle, get together, tell them what you're looking for. There's also been a promise by the council that this budget process, now that it's over, it needs to continue and do a budget check-in in November. So we have all these good plans, but just throwing up your arms and saying, where did the 2% go? Well, it's in here from the January 24th meeting. And we think you can cut $1.4 million. And if you get that money back, then are you going to give it to us? It's like thinking you're going to get $100 in. So you go out and spend $100, but then you don't get it in. And I don't believe a word that's coming from the state right now. I'll see it when I believe it, when they actually sign in ink, Ned Lamont, this is our budget. I think the nutrition money is a process. It's going to take time. Nothing moves quickly in government. But I think people need to look long and hard at the budget, why the taxes increased, the reason for not cutting the education budget, and the value they were putting on families in that moment. And again, I can't reiterate enough, thank you to the Democratic town councilors, especially the town councilor that agreed on this budget, that didn't like the format but took the time to look at it. I call the question.
So moved.
Second. Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 No.
Against.
Yes.
Against.
Yes. Item 12, Board Committee Reports, Curriculum Committee, Ms. Pickett.
All right. I'm going to take a little bit of time to go through our last curriculum meeting because I think it was an important one, and I think it has been a topic that was hot and heavy here for a while, and I think that it's important that we take the time to review the content that was delivered. So first, I really want to thank Mark Doobie. His way of sharing the information on our K-12 health scope and sequence and our new textbook. Like all of our curriculum guests that come, very detailed, clear information. But something that he mentioned during our meeting that I think is really important to also share is he was really thoughtful about including staff and student feedback in his efforts. So selecting a textbook, he got feedback from staff. When they were revising the scope and sequence, he did focus groups with students to talk about what does those lessons look like. And I think that just demonstrates the level of effort and the care around these topics being discussed. So the first agenda item was on the on the review of our middle school health textbook. I want to be clear, so when we talk about cost savings, our district was very smart and is using a grant to purchase this book, so it's not coming out of any town funds. There was a thoughtful selection process, and I would say that Mr. Doobie did a really detailed job of looking at every single module in the book, so they're no longer chapters, and we had a nice discussion about what module meant. Took every module from the textbook and aligned it directly to the scope and sequence document, so every chapter is directly aligned to our scope and sequence. The second part of our meeting was used to review our full K-12 scope and sequence of our health education and wellness curriculum. I want to note that the 9 through 12 scope and sequence was previously reviewed in March of 2021, so not all of this was new information. I also want to highlight, since health and sex ed has been a hot topic in town, that this is a skill-based curriculum. It is aligned to our state framework. It is comprehensive. It is neutral and fact-based. So I think it's really important that we understand the work of our district and understand that this is research-based efforts and aligned to standards. I have encouraged our district through the meeting to actually post these documents. I was sharing, I didn't even realize there was a K-5 one, and now it totally makes sense why my kids are coming home and talking about the things they're talking about, because it's in here. But I think this can be a helpful tool for families to know what's being chatted about at school, also to help bridge those conversations. Sometimes as a parent, I don't always know what I should be talking about at that age or how I should describe it, and I think this gives a nice kind of idea. Also points parents in the direction of who they can maybe talk to provide some more resources. So I would encourage our district to post this document online. I think it's transparent. Mark also did a great job of, when we get to those controversial topics like family life and human sexuality, clearly outlines the topics and concepts that can be opted out of. So I know that has been a hot button topic. So there is clearly opt-out lessons. We have a clear process here in town where we do have opt-out letters that get emailed and a hard copy sent home with students. At open house, we share this information. It's really important that our families, if you have questions, we encourage you to reach out to the district contact. They will share the information. They'll share the lessons. There's nothing secretive going on. And I encourage families to take a look, and really proud of the work that the district is doing around aligning our standards and our curriculum, and clearly mapping out the topics being covered. I do think there's another part of the conversation that is open for hopefully continued and deeper partnership with the Enfield Together Coalition. I also think that there needs to be a long, hard conversation about how we're partnering with our town social services and their role in doing surveys and how we get that data, how we're able to use that data. I think that we could actually do better if we partnered a little bit more strategically. Our next meeting is June 22nd, so we are a rare committee that is going to meet in June, and we're going to be looking at the book selection criteria.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Finance, Dr. Jerry.
No meeting.
Policy Committee, Mr. Ryder.
We last met on May 16th and spoke about the policies that we just voted on for first reading. We are not meeting in June. But what I've asked Assistant Superintendent Longy is to reach out to us over the summer when he gets any legislative changes that come out of Hartford in June, so that way we can get a jump on the fall. So he has agreed to provide us with any documents ahead of our September meeting, so that way we can hit the ground running if necessary. We did talk about a proposal that Ms. Cushman had brought up regarding flags. It was something that I could not support to send to the 9 of us because it was related to banning any flags from our school district properties or classrooms that was not the American flag. And I didn't feel that that was right, considering, as Mr. Hamray alluded to earlier, having a safe space for all of our students. And it was something that I wrestled with because on one hand, I wanted to send it to the board so we could discuss it openly, but on the other hand, I couldn't support even passing it through a subcommittee to do that. But it was something that we didn't feel at this time was necessary. It may come up again, and if it does, we'll address it at that point. And that's all we have for policy.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. The Leadership Committee could not meet due to a commitment that me and Mr. Ryder had. Joint Facilities Committee, Mr. Ryder.
We're next meeting on May 25th at 6 p.m.
It's Thursday.
Yep, virtual.
The JFK Building Committee.
Their last meeting was canceled. I don't have a new date for us.
Okay. The Joint Security Committee, I know you just asked.
I did reach out today, but there was an issue, an incident here in town, so we weren't able to pick a date for that.
Right.
Yes, sorry.
The Enfield Mental Health and Wellness Work Group, Dr. Jerry.
No report.
I will piggyback on that piece of it. It did come up in curriculum about that there needs to be definitely more of a partnership with the town.
Good.
It just, they're sending out the survey, and I think Mr. Doobie said he'll get the results of the survey.
He said that they do share like the overall data with him.
And I get that they're social services, but I just feel like there should be more of a partnership within the school district with them. I just wish that could change. Enfield Cultural Arts Commission.
So, I apologize, I don't have a date for their next meeting. They do have the, as I mentioned in previous meetings, the rather open jam every Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month at the main library on Middle Road. I do want to congratulate everyone that was involved in the performances that I was personally involved in the last month and a half, including Lamplighters for their production of Sound of Music, JFK for their production of Newsies Junior, Valley Rep for their production of Holidays, written by Bailey, a local playwright. Heading into the upcoming 2 weeks from this past weekend is going to be Riley's Dance Studio doing what they did last year, which is amaze everybody that is able to get into the room for the performances of their dancers. I've seen the rehearsal this past weekend, and it is amazing. I do want to talk just my own personal point of view about the band shell that is in development right behind this building, right behind Town Hall, and the scheduling for a concert series. It is important to understand that the ECAC was involved in a very minimal capacity with the lineup of artists that are playing there, the bands that are listed. And again, this is just my personal reflection on the lineup. It's nothing against anybody that's in the lineup. It's that those are groups that we've seen around and that do play the local bar circuits. It's disheartening that the process has run in the direction it has, because the ECAC put in a lot of work to develop a itinerary, a planned list of entertainment that would take place once a month, not once a week, and that it would be diverse, that it would be featuring some talent that we don't have available at local watering holes Saturday nights. Not to take away anything from that at all. Again, I want to stress, I don't have anything against any of the bands. It's all good. But the ECAC was hoping to go in a different direction and was not much involved in the process of this lineup for the town band shell that is in development. With that in mind, the band shell is a project that will be delayed for the first couple of weekends or weeks that are happening. So there will be a tent, and hopefully it'll be dry weather anyway. But I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that there was a different direction intended, and I would love to see that come back into fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamry. The PK through 5 School Modernization Committee, Mr. Ryder.
That was another thing that I'd requested an update on today, but there was something going on in town, so I haven't heard back yet. Hope to have information about that. Through the chair to the superintendent, do you have any update on our bids, et cetera?
So I don't want to use the wrong term saying bid, but the request for pricing went out last Friday, and it's on the, what's the name of the? Wait, no, not the first, but what do they call it? The standard bid. The
State bid?
The town has like a standing bid thing. I can't think of the name. It's late. It's been a long day, whatever. And we're able to use that. So you don't have to do a formal bid like we did for other projects where it's got to go out 30 days. You have to bring it in. Yes. There is no, it's a town list. It's like a running record thing. Whatever it is. It's legal. They said we can do it. It went out Friday, and they're actually, John Daig and Fred Gerber are supposed to be meeting proposed contractors on Thursday of this week, and then hopefully once that process kicks off, we can get the committee back together and start getting back to work.
All right, so I didn't know if it had been posted finally. It has.
It was posted on Friday,
Awesome.
And they're supposed to be receiving information back from interested parties by this Thursday.
Thank you.
Item 13, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the regular Board of Ed meeting minutes from May 9th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Pickett, second by Mr. Hamry. Show of hands. Correspondence, or approval of accounts and payroll? We have nothing.
No report.
Correspondence and communications, I will fill in. If you notice at your seat, you've got your invitation and your ticket to graduation. We can see Morgan when we go to graduation, so make sure you get that in your packet. Kathy, did all the board members respond back if they're going to be attending graduation? Okay, if you could remember to respond to Ms. Zalicki and let her know if you're planning on attending graduation, that would be great. Item 16, executive session. Do we have a need for executive session?
We do not.
Thank you. Item 17, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Pickett,
Second.
second by Mr. Hamry. All in favor? Thank you and good night.